All right, so according to relativity, standard relativity, the photon has no internal oscillation because it has no zero rest mass. But Nobel physicist Gerard de Hooft, with his collaborator Martin van der Mark, explain in their article Light is Heavy that light indeed has gravitational mass, because when you try to contain light in a box, a cavity, like with mirrors, then the light has inherent motion from the momentum, and so the mass is from the momentum, and so this works out to be Planck's constant times the speed of light divided by the wavelength of the light, and that is the gravitational mass of light. And this also means that if you are observing the light at a relativistic speed, then there's a Doppler shift of the light so that the internal frequency then is superluminal. So it has a phase velocity that is the de Broglie pilot wave from the de Broglie wavelength. And so this is what de Broglie called the law of phase harmony. And what this means is that there is no internal rest frame for light, just as there's no infinity, but there is this eternal motion that is non-local as an instantaneous phase of the future and the past overlapping. So this is the internal oscillation of the photon that's also called protoconsciousness by Roger Penrose and Bernard de Espinay, who wrote the book Veiled Reality about quantum physics. And so based on the John Bell was inspired by David Bohm's quantum potential, which is essentially, it's the same as the Louis de Broglie pilot wave. And it's not an ether, it's not a medium in space-time. It is active information as fundamental time with a negative frequency. So it's a time-reversed signal as negative frequency from the future. And this virtual photon then is creating the gravitational mass of the light due to the relativistic observing of the light in the cavity. And so the essentially, as Louis de Broglie says, as a particle goes towards the speed of light, then the frequency goes up based on quantum momentum, but based on the relativity, the time gets bigger as the wavelength. And so the you can logically infer that based on, from music theory, since frequency is inverse to time, therefore there has to be a negative frequency and time reverse signal that is retrocausal and superluminal as a precognitive protoconsciousness. And Sir Roger Penrose, he discusses this precognitive protoconsciousness. Now, if you listen to Michio Kaku or these technology, quantum computer, AI people, they're claiming that you can't have consciousness without a calculation. But Roger Penrose is saying the exact opposite, that the consciousness is not a calculation. And so, since we can logically infer this frequency and time from music theory, we can also logically infer that the source of our thoughts is actually based on listening as frequency from music theory. And it's been proven empirically that we can listen up to 10 times faster than Fourier uncertainty. So that's the time frequency uncertainty. So it's no longer a linear operator of time and frequency, because we're no longer defining time as a spatial measurement that's a symmetric measurement. So the noncommutative time and frequency are actually a non-local phase of the future and the past overlapping. And this is what Louis de Broglie meant by the law of phase harmony, because it means that light has gravitational mass, even though, and this is the origin of the de Broglie wavelength that is the actual true origin of quantum physics. So it's, for some reason, it's not taught in physics courses, the law of phase harmony. It's also called the Einstein-de Broglie relation. And so, as Roger Penrose points out, mass originates from frequency, from quantum frequency. That's actually negative entropy from this asymmetric time that's inherent to reality. So it's an eternal flowing as asymmetric time of the future and the past. And this is why in meditation you can then access the anti-gravity of light as demonstrated in the weak measurement experiments. So in the weak measurement, you're using an entangled photon, which is mathematically the same as 1/2 spin. So due to the gravitational mass of light, all of matter is actually made of light, and due to the 1/2 spin of matter, so the 1/2 spin is inherently non-local as a from the gravitational mass of light. That's actually, superluminal and non-local. So in other words, entanglement is not a artificially contrived experimental condition, but it's the non-locality as instantaneous action at a distance is inherent to reality due to the 1/2 spin of matter originating from this superluminal law of phase harmony of the light of the photon that Louis de Broglie realized. So this is discussed by John G. Williamson as a continuation of Martin van der Mark's research, and it relies on the noncommutative Clifford algebra. So it's also discussed by Basil J. Hiley as a continuation of his collaboration with David Bohm. And so the non-commutativity means that you do not have to use a wave function and you don't have to rely on probability, and also the quantum coherence resonates into the macro scale because the noncommutativity is not limited to the quantum scale. So this is the secret of the non-Western alchemy meditation that's called Neigong in the Chinese tradition of energy, Taoist training, or Buddhist, or in India, the alchemy yoga, like Kriya yoga in India, pranayama, stuff like that. Or it's from our original human culture, the training from the Solemn Bushmen and the pygmies in Africa. So this is the secret of the law of phase harmony, and the internal oscillation of the photon is therefore the formless awareness as protoconsciousness.